Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Red Pill Podcast 176. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend after that insanely volatile week that we all experienced, as expected with this recent August new moon. It's been crazy to watch how this all played out. I've been receiving so many messages and emails over the past couple days. I appreciate and I'm grateful for everyone's support. It's been beautiful to be ahead of this market, so kicking everything off with gratitude today. And we have a lot to cover. I will be recapping some of the key points from prior decodes that I've shared leading up to this specific week that we're transitioning into, the 33rd week of this year. I have a lot to cover today, so we're going to get straight into things, but just want to let you know, if my voice isn't as powerful as usual today, it's because I did a 3-hour live stream last night. So I'm going to do my best to hang in there. I hope you are understanding, but yeah, you guys know how it goes. Also, I have been getting a couple of, I don't know if I'll call it complaints, but people mentioning that my volume isn't too loud on my microphone. As far as I can tell right now, I have my mic as loud as I could make it without creating any distortion. So please let me know if you're all having issues hearing my mic. I believe it's loud enough. Whenever I listen to any playback of my podcasts or videos, it's more than loud enough, but I am getting some complaints from people. I'm not sure if it's just some isolated incidences where perhaps older laptops or speakers, and it's just a couple people dealing with this and not everyone. So I haven't received an overwhelming amount of complaints, but just scattered here and there, some people mentioning my microphone isn't that loud. Anyways, let's get into things. Again, make sure you are comfortable and relaxed. Get yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, maybe a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice. I'm sticking to just some plain water today. And also make sure to take notes, because over the past 2 to 3 podcasts, I've had people reaching out to me confused about certain things that we've been discussing here. And a lot of things would be cleared up if you just take notes while doing these podcasts. And if there's anything that's confusing for you, that's what makes our Discord beautiful. The fact that you could reach out to the community over on Discord, and there's enough members here where they are likely within 24 hours of the release of this podcast to have gone through the material. Perhaps they took notes, they have clarity on certain things that you might be confused about, and that's where we're able to help each other. So make sure to take notes. This is going to be packed with a lot of information, lots of recap, of course, as usual. We want to stay ahead of everything. We want to stay accountable along the way. And we're doing amazing with our altcoin voting system. Just make sure that if you want to vote on the altcoins for next week, you go to the comments section below this Patreon post and submit the name of the project and the ticker symbol. Also, make sure that we have not covered the project in at least 3 months. That's ideal. Give it about 100 days or so. And this week, we're going to be covering 4 different altcoins on top of course, Ethereum and XRP. We're going to be covering StormX, Flare, Synthetics, and Illuvium. I will be focusing most of today, though, on this recent correction and recovery that we've experienced and sharing as much as I possibly can in preparation for this upcoming full moon and a little bit of information about this upcoming September. So last week, I kicked off the podcast mentioning how Bitcoin went from 70K down to 60K. And now this week, we've had Bitcoin drop from 60K all the way down to 50K. And then right back up to 60K, as you can see as I film today's podcast. Now Bitcoin is actually trading higher than where it was when I was filming last week's podcast. It's definitely higher than where it was on the Sunday night close, on the weekly close. So absolutely wild price action to kick off this month of August. And as expected, because we've had this repeating pattern of the August new moon flash correction that I've warned you all about in essentially every video that I put out over the past month and a half. And one of the most important things I mentioned during that analysis was that we can also expect an immediate buyback to follow that correction, because that was a big part of the pattern. And now we can see how that all turned out. Combining this with our expected day 5 to 7 Mercury retrograde analysis, and that's effectively today is day 7, and this was a near perfect execution of combining the esoteric elements of gematria, numerology, and astrology with the charts. We made it up to day 5. We had this crazy pump to the upside, and now today we're showing a little bit of weakness. This was all of everything that I shared in the last podcast. So another thing that I brought up in that analysis over the past couple weeks was the CME gap, which was right around 60K. So let's open up the Bitcoin Chicago Mercantile Exchange futures chart, and we're going to be going to the hourly. I'm going to turn off all of our indicators, and we're just paying attention to this 2 red lines here across the screen. So in last week's Red Pill podcast, I mentioned that we have a gap that's still open slightly below 59K, and it's less than 4% away. I'm quoting myself from the last podcast. And then I mentioned we might as well fill it now and get it out of the way for this August new moon dump. And remember, I filmed that on the August new moon. The first day of Mercury stationed retrograde, and after I posted the podcast, the crypto market started to correct. So again, another example of timing the market. I basically had this intuitive feeling, but also a slight desire that if we're going to fill this gap, let's just get it out of the way. And what better time to get it out of the way than this cyclical pattern that we get in most iterations of specifically the month of August and specifically the August new moon. It was better to just get it out of the way, and that's the way it all went down. So as you can see in the Bitcoin CME chart now, the weekly open for the CME, which was right here, was actually at the bottom of the gap. Then we filled it on the way up. It's a very rare structure, but it still got filled. We have a tiny little gap here, but then it got back tested and filled too. And then we actually closed off the weekly on the CME above the gap after filling it. Now, I'm just going to let you all know that this is a really solid structure that happened. I mean, it seems very clean to me. It's not as bad as it looks, is kind of what I want to say. Some people might be looking at this from a different perspective and think that this whole move that just happened with Bitcoin is horrendous. And I don't agree with that. I think that this played out perfectly, actually. So the way that we filled out this gap was on a recovery, an impulsive buyback. And then we even had a larger gap that formed because of where the CME chart opened for the week late on Sunday night. And now these gaps from July over here and this gap from the recent weekly open are now filled. So all the gaps are filled. In this current horizontal trading range, of course. I know there's some gaps left behind from like years ago, but that's a different conversation. Anyways, we can also see on this Bitcoin CME chart, when I go to a daily, we have this falling trend line right here, which has an arrow at the end of it. You could see this white trend line. So we have this falling trend line and it's held as support on the daily closes. And simultaneously, if you look at this reverse fib pull that I have a fib pulled from right there, swing low to swing high at the start of our reversal structure. I shouldn't call it a reversal. It's a micro reversal, but it's just, this is the way you typically want to pull the fibs across a large time horizon. Of course, you can get fancy and adjust it to this pivot point or this pivot point, and you'll see confluence. For instance, if you were to pull it to around here, which was this low, you're going to get a tap at the 1618. If you were to pull it all the way down to this low right here, you're pretty much within reason of the 1618, although you would want to look to previous candle structure, which I've been doing over here forever, like pretty much since the beginning of the all-time high and reverse this corrective structure that we've entered. I had previous trading range marked out. You could go into like any update post that I have on Patreon, you'll see this. And we filled that already. So you can get fancy with the fibs, but what I like to do is just keep it simple. And I have it pulled from this initial pivot point up to the current all-time high. It's pulled in reverse for a reason, because I want to see where this 1618 is to the downside. This is a technique that I've been using all throughout the last bear market for 2 years. We used it very effectively to determine some exaggerated lower levels, specifically on altcoins, and it's been impeccable. how you can get some of these really, really low buy targets using this technique of the reverse fib pull. And we also use it with this log setting turned on usually. Anyways, I just want to point out that we've had this back test of this 1618 all the way in July 5th, which is why I have not adjusted this fib pull any differently. And you can see that we did have a lower high followed by a deeper correction just recently, but we held this on the daily close. Essentially, we held it. So I actually feel that this impulsive recovery that we've had to 60K, it's very impressive, and it puts us back within the macro support range. So it's not something I'm worried about, and it doesn't invalidate any bullish bias until we have a confirmed trend reversal, of course, which I suspect it would require dailies below 50K. And I wrote that inside of my crypto decoding blueprint. I think I even went a little bit lower, like it's 40K on this pivot, but we're holding a higher low structure right now, and every big pivot point here to what just happened recently, it's looking fine. You know, I mean, there's really nothing that I could come up with that invalidates my own bullish bias. And you guys know me. I mean, I'm not a perma bull. I'm not always bearish. Lately, I've been more bearish than I've been bullish because the market is showing me signals that we were due for a correction in the traditional markets and that we showed a pretty lackluster performance in the month of June and July. Even with getting some higher points up to the 70K range, we were not really seeing the volume that's associated with price discovery. So it is what it is. And we'll get to this a little bit later regarding the timing of this horizontal trading range and to answer some of your questions on that, because a lot of people want to know, like, when is this bull run going to get back to being bullish, right? So we'll cover that. Also, when we look at the traditional fib pull, which we can do on this chart, for instance, I'm going to pull it really quickly from this swing high over here, which is our all-time high, down to this recent swing low that we had over here of 49K. You'll see that we're right back at the 0.5 fib. So we got bought back up a couple days ago on Thursday, closed right below the 0.5. We had the following trading day closing on a rejection. And then after this current weekend, we'll see what's up because we need the CME to reopen. We need the traditional markets to reopen. Like, all of this volatility that came in over here was on a trading week with the stock market. We have Monday through Thursday. Friday, we closed off looking really good, but remember, the crypto market closes off on Sundays. It's not like the traditional markets. So a majority of the buyback happened in a single day on Thursday, 11, almost 12% move to the upside, which again was that impulsive buyback that we expected after the August new moon flash correction. And also it was in alignment with day 5 to day 7 of Mercury retrograde. We almost always see on Mercury retrograde, day 5 to 7, we have a nice upside move. By day 5 to day 7, I should say. Okay. So we made it to the 0.5 fib, which puts us spot on in the middle of this horizontal trading range that's been in play for 5 months now. So this was just a short and sweet kind of liquidation ritual. You know, we're used to this in crypto. If you've been here for at least a couple of years, I mean, if you've been here since 2020, then you definitely know what's up. You've been through this before. Also, with altcoins having a 70 to 80% mid-cycle correction, you've been through that before too. It's another thing I've warned about. This is crypto, guys. The volatility's here. When it's in your favor, you feel like a genius. But when it goes against you, a lot of the time you get discouraged or bored. And you can't do that if you're trying to become a sophisticated investor. Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to be, of course. You can do whatever you want to do, but I'll speak for myself. I love boredom phases, and I love when we have corrections. And I see myself getting a little nervous when we're very bullish, when it's not in time, when it's not timed out. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking profits along the way, as long as you're profitable, that you're winning in a game where most people are losing most of the time. So you should never be discouraged if you sell too early. You should never be discouraged if things are taking a little bit longer than you expected. I mean, all of that is typically what new investors go through. And just learn from what you've experienced in the past, refine your investment thesis and your wealth plan accordingly. And remember, there's more to life than the 4-year cycle. There's more to life than the 7-year cycle we see in the traditional markets. You're going to live for multiple decades. You might live for a century. So if you're somebody right now that's even in your 50s and you're a participant in this market, that's fucking awesome, especially if you made it here. You're in such a niche community full of people that are not just money focused. We're focused on so many other things about this experience called consciousness, right? So with that being said, I would not be discouraged at this time for anyone, no matter where you're positioned or parked in this market. We have each other. That's a beautiful thing. It's something we should leverage on as much as possible. And know that the longer we're sideways and the more we coil up and the more structure is built, that's actually showing a maturation in the crypto market, which is an asset class that's very immature. That's why you're seeing altcoins have 70 to 80% corrections, even if they have amazing white paper and partnerships and dev team behind them and all this shit. It, at the end of the day, is all just shit if you're watching it correct 80% in the middle of a bull run. And it's a warning that I've been giving everyone to not get so focused into that sort of stuff, because the market doesn't run on that stuff at all. Those assets don't run on that either. The market runs on gematria, numerology, and astrology. And that's what I put my energy into. Once I figured out that that was the case, my life changed forever. I got to save all the energy that I was dumping into that other stuff and redirect it to stuff that I knew mattered more. And throughout that, it became a more alchemical experience for me. I started to become calmer. I started to become more profitable, of course, and I started to be able to help more people. And I hope the same for you. I hope it's not just for you to make profits. I hope that you can help your families, your communities, your people. That's the beauty of what we're doing. It's fractaling infinitely. I hope you all vibe. For me, this is not about anything else more than getting the truth out there to the people that are ready for this truth. And hopefully it just continues to fractal and fractal and fractal. We can make our little world a better place. But getting back to today's podcast, now that we have all of that out of the way, I know many of you are still interested on August 16th, right? That was a big date that I talked about a lot over the past couple weeks. You probably have your calendars marked from decodes I've been sharing week after week, and especially since Bitcoin has another pattern for the month of August. That's between the date range of August 16th through 19th. So that's what I brought up in my last couple decodes, how I had a specific decode for the 16th from a more esoteric perspective, but the exoteric is that Bitcoin has a clear pattern for August 16th through 19th. We're already through the new moon. We had the flash correction. So if you were taking notes and following along the analysis that I've shared in past videos, then you should already be pretty savvy on what's happening here. But I'm going to recap this anyways, just to give you guys the most clarity possible. So you're aware, what do they say? No stone left unturned. So we have last year right over here. I'm going to be turning off everything and just leaving the moon cycle indicator. We have August 16th, 2023. You could see between August 16th and 17th, we had a new moon flash correction, which effectively bottomed the following day on August 17th. But note, it's a new moon here, all right? That's what matters most. Also, if you see the relationship to the following full moon of August, we were pretty much sideways. We didn't dump much more after that. We were sideways through August, opening up September. We're going to go to the year prior, August 2022. And you're going to see that Bitcoin experienced a noticeable correction between August 15th through 19th. Again, this date of the 19th is crucial, especially for this upcoming August 19th, because that's our full moon this month. You can see that Bitcoin experienced a notable correction with a 10% loss on August 19th in that single day candle, and it dumped even further on the new moon. Pretty fascinating. You see how around the new moon of August, we see that Bitcoin went another leg lower, an additional 10%, and then it was sideways to close out the month, making the August new moon seemingly more bearish than the full moon was. We actually rose into the full moon and then corrected into the new moon. Weird. But it's this new moon correction thing that seems to be the pattern. Anyways, let's keep moving. We have August 2021. Fun time in the Matrix. Around the time that my channel was just getting started. And Bitcoin was bullish effectively all through August, followed by this corrective phase in September, which was part of my analysis that I called scenario number 3 in a YouTube video that I released a couple weeks ago in preparation for this month of August that we're in now. You guys remember I said scenario number 1 was the August new moon flash correction. So scenario number 1 was the August new moon flash correction. Scenario number 2 was the August 16th to 19th correction scenario, which I'm going through now. And then scenario number 3, which I just brought up, was a bullish August followed by a correction into September. Okay, so just wanted to remind you all of that YouTube video is public. You could go check it out whenever you'd like. And I'm sure I recapped a lot of that stuff in the following Red Pill. I probably talked about some of that stuff last week as well. Okay. So, so far in 2024 here in August, it's not bullish. And that makes scenario number 3 not as important for the remainder of our analysis. So I'm just letting you know. We're going to isolate out August 2021 because it's one of those situations, one of those rare situations where you didn't have a flash correction on the August new moon and you did not have a deeper correction into August 16th through 19th. There was still a correction actually, about 10%, but nothing notable, right? So we're going to go back to 2020, a very fun year for all of us. Goodness, I'm so glad we don't deal with that nonsense anymore. Okay, so we have August 17th. We see the market topped out on the new moon. And then right after the new moon, we corrected, typical. August 17th was your local top. And then we followed by an even deeper correction. But note that the full moon was in September. Okay, so that's a weird positioning. But generally, it's just this post-new moon correction thing. Let's go to 2019. August, we have a correction into August 15th, August 14th, August 15th of 2019. We actually went lower on the new moon. You guys have seen this before, haven't you? So you can clearly see that there's a pattern about the August new moon being more bearish than the full moons this particular month, meaning the lows that we just got this week, because it was a new moon, are likely to be the lowest for this mid-cycle correction that we're in right now for Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin is running the market right now, so Bitcoin can recover back to 70K, and you could look back at a lot of altcoins and match it to when Bitcoin was last 70K, and they're going to still be about 30 to 40% lower than when Bitcoin was last at 70K, because the shitcoin market and the meme coin market is draining into Satoshis. Don't forget I said that, because that's been what I've been telling the whole world for 3 to 4 years now. This is the way the market runs. Everyone is anti-Bitcoin and hates Bitcoin and talks shit about it, but like when you study the cycles and the way they move, Bitcoin is the best thing to be in during a bear market. It's the safest thing to be in, and it also outperforms a lot of other altcoins in a lot of other stages of the cycle most of the time. Of course, not in alt season, but alt season is the smallest moment of a cycle, and it only lasts sometimes a couple of weeks. We're talking about the majority of the time with what I'm saying right now, and we're in one of those phases right now as I speak where you can do exactly what I say. You can go look at the last time Bitcoin was 70K, compare an alt. Don't like compare Solana or ETH. I'm talking about like one of those altcoins that are more in the venture capital play, you know? Maybe altcoins that are 15 market cap and higher, right? Anything that's top 10 or top 15, excluding stable coins, those are things that might be a little bit more balanced, but you'll still see anomalies with those too. So again, we could even call out XRP for that instance. XRP was almost $1 back in July, and now it's back at 58 cents today. But we look at the last time Bitcoin was at 74K, and we don't see much maturation in the XRP price, given that we just had the the Ripple SEC case come to a conclusion, and we've had no price expansion, right? That's pretty discouraging to a lot of XRP investors. And I talked about this in my last YouTube video. Check that out if you want to learn more. I spoke a lot about XRP in my live stream yesterday, so also check that out if you're interested. And then, of course, I'll be doing the XRP analysis in a little. But getting back to this, we had 2019 pretty much showing a similar pattern where it's the August new moon is as low as we go. Again, strengthening what I just shared a moment ago about the August new moon flash correction that we just experienced is likely to be the lows for Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's still running the show right now. If Bitcoin was to go back down to like 54K, which I will talk about a little bit more later, it could bring alts even lower than they just went. Again, it's all just the Bitcoin show right now. Everything is draining into Satoshis. The New World Order who runs this market, that's how they're playing it. They're taking all of the panic selling, they're putting it in sats. Rinse, repeat. It's the game they play. Welcome to the casino. Don't get emotional about it. So we're going to 2018. Let's see where we're at with this. We have a correction that kind of pivots in 2014. But what we want to talk about, August correction into August new moon, that's a match. And then also we had a mostly bullish August, kind of similar to the 2021 iteration. And then look at this, September we had our correction. So yeah, we'll put that together with the 2021 example. Now we have August 2017. I know it doesn't look like much, but if you measure from this top over here on the 17th of August down to the 22nd of August, it was a 20% correction effectively. And this was also a solar eclipse. And it was also a Mercury retrograde. So big energy during this time, same as now, minus the solar eclipse, of course. But all in all, the 2017 iteration was overall bullish. Look at September 1st. We were bullish pretty much throughout August 2017. And then September rolled around, and then we had the deeper correction. So again, what I called scenario number 3, which also this is at the same timing of the bull run that we're in. Or no, excuse me. This is the same timing of like the bull run in 2021 when we had the same correction. So we're talking about this is comparative to this. Okay, this September correction is the same as this September correction right here. The timing and how close it was to the cycle peak. So because the cycle peaked following that September correction, which happened in 2017 and 2021. Very similar. Now let's go to 2016. This is where things get a little more interesting. Okay, one second. I want to show the data here. We had Bitcoin correct into August new moon. We also had a pivot kind of following this exact structure that we're in right now, where we had the August new moon early in 2016, followed by a buyback shortly after. And then we were sideways into the full moon. And then notice how the full moon is a higher price than this new moon dump. So another piece of data to consider. One second, let me get back on track here. So we had this deepest part of the correction in the August new moon after the halving, which is eerily similar. And we even had the peak of our market cycle before the halving. So it's pretty identical, guys. So if we were to have a flat August and finish off this month into, let's just say, the 64K territory, because I believe that's where Bitcoin opened up the month. Let me make sure, double check. Okay. Yeah, we opened at 64,700, basically. Not only if we got back there to 64,700, not only would that be an incredibly bullish recovery, but that would be the typical data that we see Bitcoin have during the month of August. If you're looking at this Bitcoin seasonality chart that we brought up many times. And keep in mind, our macro support is right around 60,600. Okay, so this is essentially where we're trading at right now as I speak. And it's only August 11th. We have about 2.5 more weeks before this is all said and done. So about two weeks or so. So if we can get bought back up all the way into 64K, for instance, and just close flat, it would be actually similar to the data that we usually see. And it would be a solid recovery. I mean, even 63, yeah, even if we could get a close of 63,200, that would look good to not have like a bearish engulfing candle. Even though at this point we're 5 months deep, it's not so critical. So please keep that in mind. For our monthly close of August, 63K would be awesome. 64.7K, 64,700 and higher would be incredible. So if Bitcoin was to close at 65,000 with just a, what would that be? 0.5% gain, that would be wild, especially after the shakeout all the way down to 49K. Although part of last week's podcast was the Mercury retrograde analysis, I mentioned that it's typical to see a flat Mercury retrograde, meaning wherever we were trading at on the first day Mercury was stationed retrograde is typically where we see Bitcoin close off Mercury retro before stationing direct again. So we're going to go into that, just a quick peek and show you. We have August 27th is the end, and we have the start being between 61 and 58K. So perhaps close off Mercury retrograde at 61K, and then we get a couple of bullish days into the monthly close to wrap up August into September right around 63 to 65K. Take note of everything I just said. And we'll revisit that on, what is it, Red Pill 179, which happens to land on September 1st. Amazing. So we have that Red Pill where we'll recap everything I just said at the very beginning of the month. That'll be great because we'll have the monthly close coming in right before that podcast. That's perfect. That's amazing timing, actually. And please know that this is not a prediction. It's just combining all our elements here and not being emotional or dramatic about our outlook on things. I utilize the Bitcoin seasonality chart to show you that the month of August is typically the only month in the entire chart history of Bitcoin being flat. We have a Mercury retrograde right now, which is historically flat. And we have the 2016 halving, where Bitcoin dumped on the August new moon after the halving, and a nearly identical structure to what we're seeing today. And that August was also flat. So flat, flat, flat. I'm not making this up. So this idea of finishing off the month of August between 63 to 65K is not an exaggeration by any stretch of the imagination. It's merely taking all the elements we're working with and utilizing them to have a thorough analysis and to keep our expectations in check along the way, which I know you all value immensely. Now, getting back to this August 16th through 19th pattern, we're going to go to 2015. Where are we at? All right. So we have 2015. We see the August new moon flash correction onto August 16th through the 18th was about as deep as it went. And then we bottomed on the 18th, followed by a recovery on the 19th with a higher close on the full moon. Again, making the new moon the most bearish time frame of the month of August for Bitcoin. Then we have August of 2014. We just corrected through this to August 18th. There you go. No need to say more. Then we have 2013 August. We were bullish pretty much the entire time. And then we had an 18% correction into September, similar to 2017 and similar to 2021, which was not the case for our current cycle. And note that this was the year of the snake, the Chinese year that we're moving into at the end of 2025. And this was when this bull run finished off before a true bear market. All right, then we have the prior year, which is the year of the dragon. This is the same year that we're in now. And like clockwork, we have our new moon right here. We have a correction into August 19th. So you see, when we have these crazy corrections in between the 16th through 19th of August, it's always in relationship to the new moon. And then we follow with a full moon that has a higher price, making the new moon correction the lowest part of the correction. And you see this buyback that we get, it's like identical to what we just experienced. So the fact that we corrected on the August new moon we just corrected on the August new moon in the only 2 year of the dragons that Bitcoin has ever traded during is incredibly significant for our work here at WatersAbove. It shows this decoding system I'm refining week by week, month by month, year by year, is becoming an undeniably accurate system for determining the energy of this asset, along with the solar and lunar cycles I've introduced, which will be actually tested very soon because we have October 2nd will be our next solar eclipse. And that's the 4th solar eclipse of our solar cycle. If Bitcoin is not at least at 72K by October 2nd, then that would be the first time ever that Bitcoin was not at least testing prior all-time highs during the 4th solar eclipse of our solar cycle, which we can check in our most recent iteration, which was right here. We have the 4th solar eclipse of the solar cycle. When I zoom out, you're going to notice that where I put my cursor is the exact price of the all-time high of 2017. That's when Bitcoin was retesting it and breaking out, right on that solar eclipse. That's incredible. And then this broke out into price discovery and had about 4 months of very bullish price action to follow. And this time frame also included the last alt season, so keep that in mind. So for the solar and lunar cycles thus far, they're working perfectly. But of course, anything's possible in the matrix. Just keep in mind that it's highly likely, if we don't break out into price discovery sooner than October 2nd of this year, that it's likely that we're at least trading near all-time highs for Bitcoin. Near. And then after the 4th solar eclipse, things get real exciting. We could just time it and say Q4 of 2024. And this is also covered thoroughly in my crypto decoding blueprint. So if you're interested in that, that covers everything step by step. I mean, unbelievable amount of value in that. And another thing to mention when bringing up this example of 2020 that I was just sharing is that if you look at the timing of the halving, which was on May 11th, 2020, and you go to this breakout over here of October 2021. So this was the breakout that we had that started to break this automatic rally here. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but that was the moment where the bull run really kicked off again after we had this bullish phase here and a very bearish phase here with the C19 crash. October 21st was right around where things started to get bullish again, okay? And when we measure from the date of the halving to that breakout, well, that's 163 days, a little over 5 months. And if you take from our recent halving, which was around April 20th, and you add 163 days, I believe I said, look at where this puts us. The end of September, which is just days apart from our 4th solar eclipse of our solar cycle on October 2nd. How wild is that? So I just combined exoteric elements with esoteric elements and showed you the time aligns beautifully. Now, it's a little later than expected in some cases, but in my opinion, that's because we were way too bullish too quickly at the beginning of this year in March, which was a thing that I'm going to show you we did not want, because here in this cycle of 2020, we were way too bullish too quickly. And that's why we had this much deeper correction here in May. Also, we had the start of the lunar cycle. That's a side note. But this was not healthy, okay? Whilst when you look at this cycle where we just had little correction, well, big corrections, but for crypto, little corrections along the way, and this really nice parabolic advance, while this was just a really sharp push to the upside, really massive correction, double top, and that was horrible structure. Here, now that we've had this quick buyback, things are looking fine, but it's a lot better to be sideways than it is to just be breaking out in a straight line and then having a blow off top. So just want to share that this is actually good that we're sideways, because being way too bullish, it leads to these longer corrective phases. And when the market becomes overheated, well, that's what follows with a dramatic mid-cycle correction and a boredom phase. And we see it in every cycle and in every asset class. It's just crypto's a little bit more volatile and a little quicker. Even 2016, when we look back at 2016, let me show you something. It's really important stuff to bring up. We have the halving right here. When we take from the halving on July 9th, 2016 until Bitcoin broke out into price discovery, which is right here in April 2017, this took 290 days. So if we took 290 days off of our halving, let's see where this puts us. This puts us almost into February of 2025. So it's all about context, right? Again, when you look back at the past, if there's anything you can learn from the past, it's patience. So to wrap up this analysis, we've been through about 10 years of data. It's clear that the new moon has a pattern of being the deepest part of the correction in August. We just had the August new moon. Right here, we had the correction and the buyback happen exactly how it does in all the other patterns. Also, in what I called scenario number 3 in prior videos, when we have a bullish August with no flash correction, then we can expect a correction in September. So the fact that we did not have the fact that we did have the August new moon correction, then we could count that out, all right? Meaning I'm not anticipating a huge correction in September anymore because we had this recent correction. And then we have this upcoming August 16th through 19th pattern. And since the 19th is a full moon, you saw for yourself that even when we do have corrections for the full moon in August, it's typically not as low as the corrections for the new moon flash correction, making this the likely scenario to play out. So we have our absolute low at 49K, which has come and gone. It's expected we do not drop lower during the 16th through 19th of this month, leading into the full moon. And the levels to consider for this correction would be around 54K. I brought it up a little bit earlier. And my main analysis I've shared last month regarding closing daily candles below 55K still stands. I only made an exception for this August new moon because I expected a volatile correction, but now that that's over, we'd really want Bitcoin to hold structure and not spend too much time below 55K. And honestly, holding 57K, which is right around here, would be even better for this local structure that we've had. We could also pull a fib. Let me show you really quickly. We're going to pull a fib from this level right here, which was the last time Bitcoin was at 70K, pretty much in the beginning or the end of July. Amazing the speed at which Bitcoin made this drop. You know, this is a 30% correction in a week. That's too much. So the impulsive buyback should not shock people. Anyways, when we pull this fib from this swing high to this swing low, you can see that we actually did come up to the golden pocket and we got rejected off of this 618. Now we also have the 236 fib right around 54K. Another reason this 54K level could be in the cards for this upcoming full moon time frame. So just showed you a couple examples of why I would be open-minded to us correcting back there between the 16th through the 19th. So I'm giving you the dates and I'm giving you the levels. And we'd consider the 5-day window around the new moon, the full moon, because that's always what we pay attention here on this channel. We have August 14th through the 24th would be that 5-day window around the full moon, meaning if we come down on the 14th, 15th, 16th, we could pivot out really quickly. Or if we're making it to like the 19th or 18th and we haven't seen any more of a pullback, but we're still holding sideways, we could maybe move down a little bit later than expected, but it's just around the full moon is what you want to consider. And then we have the third quarter moon, which is on the 26th. We should be out of that energy by then. And that's also the day before Mercury stations direct, which again should put us into a more flat position, essentially where we're trading now. Because the Mercury retrograde, I think, was between 58 to 61K. Yeah, right here, 61 to 58. So where we're trading out now is where we could be wrapping up the 27th. And then I gave you that example of how we could finish off the month a little bit earlier. So all in all, I'd prefer if Bitcoin does not spend too much time below 55K and it could hold the 57 to 58K levels around the full moon, which would be typically a higher low structure that we get during the month of August. And with the August new moon correction being lower than the full moon and finishing the month overall flat based on historic data and the fact that we opened the month around 65K, we already got this new moon flash correction out of the way, followed by this impulsive buyback, and we filled all the CME gaps. Well, this is very promising that we could literally see Bitcoin closing off August between 64 to 65K. Even with this recent drop as low as we went. And this wipeout of the altcoin market should have gotten rid of the final weak hands left. It's been a 5-month corrective phase for a majority of the altcoins, and that's really enough to do a lot of damage to the sentiment here in the crypto space. I'm sure some of you are feeling it, which of course is the main agenda of the market maker. You guys know this. Now, I don't think I need to spend too much time revisiting the decode of August 16th, but I do want to recap some of the key points before moving into the rest of our charts for the remainder of our podcast. We have today being the 11th of August, the closing ceremony of the 33rd Olympics, and tomorrow starts the 33rd week of the year on August 12th, as you can see. Today is also the 224th day of the year, which is in the year 224, right? We talked about this before. This is very symbolic for the closing of the Olympics, which we all know has been heavily ritualized. And, well, it's been ritualized since the start with that insane opening ceremony. What the hell was that? Anyways, we have August 12th tomorrow. Same date numerology as the Trump assassination attempt on the 13th of July. And this also is important to bring up because we had our connection for August 15th tied to the Trump assassination attempt by 33 days. And it's in the 33rd week of the year, right after the conclusion of the 33rd Olympics. And technically, it's the third day of the 33rd week of the year if you don't count the end date. It's a little bit of a stretch, but just giving a little other piece of code to consider. And you could use that technique however you'd like. It's not as significant as the prior pieces of information I shared. Now, we have August 16th, the key date that I've been talking about forever now. It's the day leaving 137 days left in the year. 137 is the 33rd prime number. Again, this is happening during the 33rd week of the year. And this date is significant because it has a 68 double-digit date numerology, which is the war code. And I've already gone through this thoroughly in past videos. But the one connection that's most important out of all of them is tied to the assassination of the former Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I think I'm pretty close. Well, I know the media is not calling it an assassination, but I know Zion's tricks, and so do all of you. But getting back to this, we have the 19th of May, which was the date. And as you can see, they share the same date numerology, 68, 68, 23, 23. So we have a match. But also, they're 89 days apart. And that's very important because 89 is the 24th prime number and 24 is our key number for this year, 2024, in the Hebrew year 5784, which reduces to 24. Even Rosh Hashanah this year, which is the 3rd of October ends with the 89 days left in the year. So amazing. We have 89 days left in the year. Of the Hebrew year, 5,784, we have this the 24th prime. This will be the last day of the year that adds up to 24 before transitioning into the new year of 5,785. And that adds up to 25, which is aligning with our upcoming year of the snake. Because the snake is the serpent. Serpent is 97. 97 is the 25th prime number in the Gregorian year of 2025, right? This is all synchronized together. So this 89 connection that I'm talking about is massive. August 16th, it's 89 days after the death of former Iranian president. We have Rosh Hashanah, the day leaving 89 days left in the Gregorian year. 89 is the 24th prime number. Also, some more 24 connections. We have assassination giving you 38 in Chaldean. This is a key number for my Year of the Dragon Decoded. If you watched it, you'd be well aware. And it's because esoterically 38 is 3 8s. 888. 8 times 3 is 24. Again, back to your 24 code. This will also be 2 months after the event with Donald Trump's assassination attempt. We have Trump giving you the 24 in Chaldean. We have this guy, Joe Biden. He broke up with America in a tweet. 64, 6 times 4 is 24. Then we have Kamala Harris steps in. She's born in the Year of the Dragon, 1964, just like we're in the Year of the Dragon now. And this will be the year of the election going against Trump. I just showed you the 24 connection before. She's also 59 years old. And during this Year of the Dragon, that's symbolic because dragon equals 59. Again, synchronized perfectly. You literally can't make this up. The mirror of this number 24 that we were just talking about is 42. And if you take her whole name, Kamala Devi Harris, you have 42. Perfect. And getting back to the 24s, not only is Trump 24 in Chaldean, but the first name, Donald, is 24 in the same cipher. And when you write those together, you have 138. And the day that we were talking about, August 15th, which is 33 days after the assassination attempt, is the day leaving 138 days left in the year. During the 33rd week of this year. 33 days after. That's a significant event that's tied directly to him. And August 16th is tied to our upcoming solar eclipse, which is on the 2nd. We're talking about the 16th by 47 days. Its number is tied to the upcoming U.S. election, since whoever wins will become the 47th president of the U.S. Because Joe Biden dropped out, like an American hero would. And then what's interesting is that the August 16th date that we've been decoding is also tied to the upcoming election by 81 days, which is how old Joe Biden currently is. And I need to wrap up this before I completely blow your minds. But since I mentioned Joe Biden is 81, naturally he'll become 82 on November 20th of this year. We're going to be putting in November 20th, 2024. And if you go to 82 days before his 82nd birthday, it lands on the 82 date numerology. It's fucking crazy. Like, I'll say that again. If your mind's not blown by this, I don't know what will. We have Joe Biden turning 82 on November 20th. 82 days before his 82nd birthday is the 82 date numerology. It's unbelievable. And since the date of August 30th has the same date numerology as the Trump assassination attempt on July 13th, being the 19 date numerology, if we connect those two dates together, you're going to see we have them 1 month and 17 days apart, which is the 117 code. I've talked about this a lot in my work. That's the true 9/11 date, because 9/11 or September 11th, 9 and September don't match. It's not the ninth month in the actual system, because Septem is Latin for 7, making September 11th actually the 711 code. And you would write that internationally as 117. And here we have August 30th is 1 month and 17 days after the Trump assassination attempt. It's crazy, because we're talking about this date tied directly to Biden, right? This is really amazing stuff, because I just brought up the 117 code, and you could see that July 13th is the day leaving 171 days left in the year, and that is the anagram of 117. This is your 9/11 code, and I brought this up a while ago in my X account. I brought up the 9/11 ritual that's going on, and how the first tower was the Trump arrest last year, which happened in August. And then you had the Trump assassination attempt this year. And then following that soon after would be Tower 7. Okay? That's your 117 code. Building 7, we called it in that event. So I think that this connection right here, I'm not sure where I shared it, but it should be, oh yeah, right here. Yeah. I wrote it over on July 18th. You could go follow this account if you guys like these sorts of updates. Just make sure you write it properly. WatersAbove. Don't put the 0 or the O, excuse me. Anyways, this is an amazing connection. I know I said I would wrap this up regarding the 82 days tied to the 82 date numerology for August 30th, but I can't help myself. I just want to show you really quickly with the periodic table, because I just thought of this. The 82nd element is lead. Now, what's amazing about this is the symbol of lead is the same symbol as Jupiter, and the same symbol originally used to promote this current Olympics in Paris, France. So this is insanely symbolic with moving into Joe Biden's 82nd year of age. And I know it's all political theater at the end of the day, but you got to admit, this is a pretty incredible sequence of codes playing out. Can't deny that. And if we do get a political ritual on this date, that would be mind-blowing. But as you can see with all this code that I shared, I wouldn't be shocked, especially since August 30th is tied to the election day. And you can see if I include the end date, they are 68 days apart. And what did I just share with you earlier? That was the big reason why August 16th stood out to me, because of the 68 code. So August 30th is 68 days before the election. And we were just talking about August 16th, the 68 date numerology. 137 days left in the year, 33rd prime during the 33rd week. And we also talked about the 82 tied to Joe Biden's age. Mind-blowing. So August 16th and August 30th are big, guys. Keep this stuff in mind. Let's get into these charts, wrap up Bitcoin quickly, because we've already talked enough about Bitcoin. We do want to address this potential cross that's happening here. I mean, it will happen. It's the 55 crossing below the 200 simple moving average. A lot of people call this a death cross. A lot of speculation on what that will cause for Bitcoin's price moving forward, but we want to look back at the last time this happened, which was September and October of last year. So we had right here in September, the 55 crossing below the 200. By the way, most people don't use the 55. I use it because it's a Fibonacci number. A lot of people don't. You, of course, are aware of my wolf cross, which is the 8 simple moving average and the 55 simple moving average. That's something that I use a lot. But when I ever do anything involving crosses with moving averages, I don't adjust them. I keep my moving averages, and I won't move from those. They are what works for me. It's what I like. It's okay to use whatever you like, but I stick to the 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 233 sometimes. But getting back to this, we have the death cross example that last happened, where if you look at the price of Bitcoin, we zoom in, we look at the date of the cross to the downside. We were trading at 26,000. We actually were the lowest that day. Maybe we had a couple of hours trading below that level, but then this led to a price appreciation of 182% over 182 days. I mean, Is this really the problem? I don't know. Let me go back. It's just the buzzword of death cross is what sort of triggers me as an analyst. So we have right here is your cross. You see that we closed on that day at 48K. Oh man, we dropped 17% after. But then we went on to gain 40 some odd percent over the next 2 months. All right. So over here, I mean, if you want to count it on this move, well, that would be, some people would call that a golden cross. Excuse me, I should have went to this one. I'm not trying to troll anyone, by the way, because I know these death cross things happen rarely, and people talk about it like the same way they talk about like Lionsgate. It's like a yearly occurrence that everyone wants to pour all this energy into, but they don't take too much time to go back in the charts and do it for themselves, and that's what matters a lot. You know what I mean? Like the people that were talking about Saturn retrograde and how it would be a boring, low volatility time frame, and I then went through every Saturn retrograde with you guys and showed you how it's some of the most volatile time frames for Bitcoin. That's not boring at all. It's actually extremely exciting. But anyways, we have this right here, the 55 crossing below the 200. We can see that on this exact day, Bitcoin closed pretty much at its low. We went a little bit lower, like 7% lower, but then Bitcoin went on to move up 120%. Apologies about what I shared over here. That was an inaccurate example, but 118% over here was like 180%. Yeah. So I wouldn't use that as the like ultimate indicator for like the end of a bull run or like a trend reversal. There's so many other things that matter more. Moving averages are great, but in context. Yeah. So Bitcoin is actually now currently back above the 200 exponential moving average, but it's also treating the 200 and this 55 as they pinch together as a resistance so far, which is exactly like September right here. You see, look, we had the 55 cross below the 200, and then we got bought back up into the 55. We got rejected initially. I bet you this was into a full moon. Let me check just to double. Oh. How coincidental is that? So look, we buy back into the after the cross. Let me do it step by step with you guys. Cross, come back to the 55, rejected, correct into the following full moon, recover, get above the 55 back test, have your cross in the other direction, sayonara. All right. So that would be essentially how I would see this playing out as well. I'm not entertaining this quote unquote death cross as much as other things. For me, if we start closing into the low 50s, I think that's really, really not good. Really not good. If it's a day or two, it's fine, like over here. But too many days below 55K, I don't like that, just to be completely honest. Now, we want to go over to the weekly chart first. Wrap up this soon. Index. Turn this off. I'm going to turn off the drawings, our art. We're going to load up these EMAs and see what's up. Oh, beautiful. We're holding the 34 EMA. That'd be gorgeous if we could hold that tonight. Please, Bitcoin, don't drop the ball. If we can hold, it would be very similar to this correction we got back in July. Lately, we haven't been too bearish on these EMAs. They've been holding pretty well, but we do have this example of the start of our bull run over here, where we did have this time frame literally during August into September, where we started trading and closing below the EMAs, just like we are now, guys. It's very similar. It's a very similar time to be bearish, just like it was back then. And then when October rolled around, we had the eclipse, and then everything went bullish into the following eclipse. Isn't that fucking crazy? Look, right here was the eclipse. Here was the next eclipse. You can't make this up. When you look at the eclipse analysis that I shared, it's, yeah, man. A part of me wants to make like a short video, like a 3-minute video to share with the public, like when this is all said and done, to be like, look at how powerful this information is. Buying this eclipse, and I mean, if it would have been practice to de-risk like that, but nobody can predict exactly how it's going to go, of course. But now that it's turned out this way, it's giving me a lot more confidence in my own system. And I'm going to definitely start sticking more to my own system than just like general feelings of what's going on with geopolitical events, or isolated news, such as the Bitcoin ETF. There's so many other things going on. But needless to say, I love this system. I love how much it's refined over the years. It's by no means perfect. I don't think that I have any sense of the desire to seek perfection. I'm just really excited to have something new to bring to the table with amazing results. And you could see from eclipse to eclipse, that's pivot to pivot perfectly. And we know our next eclipse is the same month, October. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, we are in a pretty nice position right now. What I would like to see is something that I brought up in my last video, which would be a close above 61,600, 61,500 for the weekly. Although that's a big ask. But if we look at the 2-week chart, which we're about to close, this could potentially be a bearish engulfing candle, which isn't nice. I would like to see minimum 61K. So if Bitcoin can open up the CME, buy back into the final hour of our week, that would look very good. Also holding this 13 EMA would look awesome. So you guys got it. The weekly close above 61 would be great. We're not in the most fantastic position right now, but on the weekly, as long as we're holding the 34 EMA, which is around, let me see exactly, 58K. If we could close above 58, we're looking a lot better. If we were to just drain away into 55K or lower into this weekly close, that'd be horrific. I don't see that happening, but I'm just letting you know for transparency. ETH, not a whole lot to say. Really horrible to see such a deep correction like this and how weak this buyback has been, because your support was holding so strong. We had 3 months of this support from the whole horizontal trading range being almost 6 months. We broke through it after the ETF was approved and launched for ETH. That's expected, but the depth of this correction is really bearish. This is pretty much going lower than where Bitcoin was post ETF sell-off, which was like, what, 40, where was that? 38K. So if you think where ETH just corrected was the same place where Bitcoin was 38,000, that's where ETH just came back to. How quick those gains can all go away. That's what it's like with an altcoin, So this is not in the most positive looking position right now. I mean, if we can get bought back up today to 2,700, that would look like an amazing kind of like reversal doji. If we can get even a little bit more higher, like to where our highs were today at 2,720, if we could get to 2,730 or 40, it would kind of look like a bullish hammer. That would look really, really nice. I just don't know if we can get bought back up another 5% into today's. I don't know if that's possible, even though we're pretty flat right now. So yeah, I mean, in general, this isn't the most beautiful thing, but we can't call trend reversal until we start breaking below like 2,250 on a weekly close. So I'll leave it at that. For now, this is not looking so awesome in ETH. There was an M pattern that I believe has played out, and it has fulfilled. So this M pattern is over and done with. The buyback on this is insane. Look at the size of this tail. So some people call it a wick, you could call it a tail. This is a nice thing to see. It's just structurally, this looks like dog shit now, but the buyback on this is nice. It's not such a worry. Okay, we're going to go over to our main XRP chart. I have a video coming out soon where I'll be breaking down phase 5 for those that have requested it. We do need to address the fact that we had this SEC case come to a conclusion. I shared a video last week titled "The XRP Case is Not Over," and it had a couple of key points in that some people were like overlooking, and they called that video clickbait, even though it was not, because the SEC still has 60 days to appeal from the date of that settlement. Whether they do or do not, it's still a key point to bring up. Brad Garlinghouse himself even brought this up in a public notice to, I suppose, several people in his camp, so it's not like hidden esoteric information. He even brought up the 60 days regarding the SEC's time frame to appeal. It's just part of the U.S. legal system. That wasn't clickbait. It was also in combination with me sharing that whether there is an appeal or not, that the price has not moved, and that proves a point that I've been making for a long time about how this SEC case does not matter. It doesn't matter at all for the thing that people want most, which is price appreciation. Everyone who's following along Ripple and XRP doesn't actually in their heart want more government and more connections with banks, because that's the antithesis of what most people in the truth movement desire. Which is another sad thing to bring up, how it seems that this whole XRP or Ripple SEC case has become a psyop to get a lot of people who are pro-freedom and pro-sovereignty to now be just pro-government and pro-lawyers and pro the legal system. It's fucking sad, but that's the way it's become, and it was strategically done like that. So you had people going from wanting freedom to now all they care about is what's going on in the legal system in the courts, even though the entire court runs on Admiralty Commerce Law. It's a big scam, whatever. I'm not even going to waste your time today with that. You could go learn about that on your own. And I'm not against XRP or Ripple. I'm not a supporter either. I am an investor. And it's part of my investment thesis to see where there's a value play, a value investment. This thing is undervalued for what I believe it will become, or it's currently trading much lower than what I believe its true value is, would probably be a more sophisticated thing to state. I believe most of you agree with me on that. With how much it's suppressed, I see there being an opportunity, and because there are all these connections, partnerships, etc., it's not like I'm banking on a meme coin. This thing is very stable and it is really suppressed. The price action is not as impressive as other things that I invest in, but there still holds a place for it to make sense in the grand scheme of my investment thesis, right? But getting back to this video that I shared and wrapping up the XRP TA, or XRP analysis, was that I've been warning for years that this SEC case does not matter at all. And we're looking at a 57-cent XRP as I speak. That's clearly the case. A lot of people are saying, well, the end of the SEC case was expected for us to dump. But that doesn't really make any sense, honestly, because that should have opened the floodgates for a bunch of investors to speculate on it, right? Whatever, however you want to spin this, the reality is in the price, and there's an issue here. There's no issue for us here, because I've been all along telling you that I'm not getting excited about the finality of this case. What I would get excited for as an XRP investor is Bitcoin price discovery, meaning the analysis that I've been sharing week after week, month after month for 6 months about Bitcoin breaking above 72,000, heading towards 80K, would be the moment where I start getting very excited about my XRP position. Until then, we're sideways. And there's really no major update needed at this time, because we're still in phase 5 of this horizontal trading range that is in a tight bandwidth, just like we had back here. Before this explosive move into Bitcoin's price discovery and what becomes phase 1, or a restart of the cycle. We're not there yet. But what I can say is the first initial move that I'd be anticipating is to this 1618, which would be $1.26, which if I hold my cursor at $1.26 to $1.30, you can see there's a rejection here, a couple of weeks of trading above there. Then getting to that level and being able to close weeklies above that level, above 140, for instance, should be what sends us into the first straight line breakout that you see on XRP, like going back to the last cycle. And that has a much higher price target. Clearly, it would be breaking prior all-time highs. So we're looking at, $7 to $8 on the minimum side of that initial advance. And I hope that makes people aware that I'm not bearish on this thing. No matter everything I've said in my live stream yesterday and all the things that I've been talking about, I'm not bearish on it. Right now, I'm just neutral. And as for the case being over, that doesn't excite me. But that's never been the case. It's never excited me. Getting to Storm X, first altcoin of today's podcast. After our usuals, we're going to have to work with this chart because we have a scam wick to the upside. Kind of makes our data look horrible. Ticker symbol STMX. You know you're cool when you have 4 letters in your ticker symbol. We've had a 99.7% correction. Holy moly. Everything this thing ever amounted to got wiped away into the C19 crash. Fantastic. All right, and then it gets bought back into alt season 2021. It tops out where everything else tops out. And it was a lower high, so it never went to price discovery. So what that means is Storm X is in price discovery to the downside. Now, I guess a lot of people want to know about this project because it's symbolic for this year. It has the X. We're in the year of the X because X is the 24th letter. We talked about the X connections several times. And we also have red symbolism, which is tied to, the year of the dragon. Even though orange and yellow are more symbolic of fire, we do have some red symbolic of perhaps the root chakra, however you want to look at it. But red would be one of those colors that we could consider. It's really the X that I think most people are interested in, and I assume that's the reason why you guys voted on this coin. So we have last alt season. We're going to be pulling a fib to our swing low of our bear market. We're going to double click on this and make sure it's on a logarithmic setting because we're looking at a logarithmic chart. And we've only been able to make it up to the 382. And what do I teach you guys? It's when you start concretely closing above the 382 is when you enter the next bullish phase for the asset, which typically stalls out in the golden pocket. You've gotten rejected there 1, 2, 3, going on 4 times. And that's clearly a very important level because at the end of this blow off top, you had a bull trap followed by a return back to the same level, followed by another lower high bull trap, and then that was lights out. This thing went into the finality of its bear market, which it's still kind of in the lower range of as we speak. If we were to go from here to the current all-time high, or the current alt season high, which I trust more than the crap that happened back here, that would be a 1,500% move. So what that means in plain English is that is a solid venture capital play if you're talking about a small percentage of like 1 to 1.5%, maybe 2% of your overall portfolio. I would not touch this thing with 1,000-foot pole, anything over above 3%. And the chart is so bad in general and so limited in data that I would not feel comfortable putting too much into it. The only thing that I can say is from where we were during the C19 crash to where we are right now, it's about 500% up. That's good because we have a lot of altcoin examples that are trading as low as the C19 crash or even lower. I think one of them is, H-bar or IOTA? Yeah. Look, so IOTA is trading as low as the C19 crash as we speak. It even just went lower recently and back tested a key. Wow, it's fucking crazy. So I shared a quick example with you. You get my point. This is up 500% from there, from like this horizontal trading range that we had for multiple weeks. So that's good. Probably better venture capital than IOTA would be. Anyways, we are not looking horrible on this project, but also not looking amazing. But 1,500% up to retest last alt season, that's attainable. It's possible. It's in the cards. So yeah, just to share some thoughts. This thing could go lower though. I mean, why not? What's making this thing even go up? Nothing. And that's why it's been 2 years of sideways chopping along this trading range between a penny and 0.003. I wouldn't personally invest in something like this. Now we're moving over to Flare. This is a very, hate to say it, but a dangerous project because it was tied to the XRP narrative, the Ripple narrative. And remember, it was given to everyone for free for holding XRP in wallets during this Flare token airdrop business that happened right before the SEC lawsuit. So anyways, we're on the weekly chart right now. I want to go to a daily. And the same way this thing went to the upside is the same fashion that it's going to the downside. The reason I have the fib pulled right here is because the best chart I could find shows me an 8-cent high. So I have the fib pulled from the 8-cent level to the low. We were riding up this trend line until we maxed out at the golden pocket, so right at the 786. And then once we started to come down below the 618, the bottom of the golden pocket, and then come back to it to get a retest to maybe spend more time there, it got rejected. And then we started to see it collapse, and it retested the 236, which if you listen to my earlier analysis about Bitcoin, I like that. So this is hopefully as low as this goes. On a technical outlook, that should be as low as it goes. What is this, a 70%? Yeah, there you go. We've had a 75% mid-cycle correction. What do I teach? 70 to 80%. I said it like 10 times at the beginning of today's podcast. 70 to 80% is a typical mid-cycle correction for a speculative altcoin. We're there. We got RSI all the way down to like the 15 level, 19 level, higher lows. It's pretty oversold. This should hold the 236. Now, we could spend a lot of time around the 236 between now and October, given what Bitcoin does. On the return back to the current high, you're looking at a 400% move. And this is so insanely speculative that like, what could it do? You know, I don't know if it can make it up to 32 cents. I suspect you'll have to have perhaps some things that are going on that this is associated with. Like this was originally associated with XRP and Ripple. Well, if we see crazy moves in XRP, well, then we're going to see a crazy move in Stellar Lumens, XLM, and then I think we'll see a nice move in Flare. One other thing I want to do is I'm going to double click. I'm going to extend this right line, and I want to see the timing here of where it intersects with the 1618. And it's right there in New Year's. So I don't know if that's possible by New Year's, but I could entertain that. And that could be another way to look at this. Maybe it gets to 32 cents around then. Let me see on linear where, okay, 31 is where our 4236 is, the 34. So that 32 cent level is not crazy. I just don't know if I would bank on it too much. But for those who want to invest in this, like I have a bunch for free. So, and it gets distributed like on a whatever frequency basis. But yeah, we're talking about a 2000% move to the upside in the extreme side of things. Like if we have a actual alt season. And that's what I'm seeing for a lot of projects with way better charts, with way more chart history, way bigger communities. So I don't know if I would play with this one with anything besides the current house money that I have in it. So yeah, I'm not anti this, what's going on here. I have a small level of competence about what this technology is. I get it enough, but none of that stuff really matters until the world is like full-blown blockchain world, you know? And Flare, I don't know if it'll necessarily be one of the top dogs in that conversation. Nothing even close to like what Solana and Ethereum and even Chainlink will be doing, but yeah. Can't get too much deeper into it. Plus we have to move on, but yeah, I wouldn't put any of my fresh money in that for sure. Although I'm not bearish, there are some technical significances to coming back to the 236, and then from this level up to the 1618, you get about 2000% move. Even 1500 would be amazing for something like this. Let's go to synthetics. It's been some time since I've covered this. Oh shit, this broke lower than, wow. My God, I don't think I've seen too many examples of this. So synthetics is breaking lower than its bear market. So this is the spring phase. Very nice. Okay, let me break this down. We're in a Wyckoff spring in this moment. So we had our AR end here on March when everything was pretty much going up. That was a 300% move for synthetics. Then now we're in the spring phase, which follows by a quick buyback. Your test zone would be $2. So after this gets above $2, you could have a little bit of flat. And then after that flat, you go into what's called SOS. So SOS would be a break of $5. And then if I pull a fib, I could show you where the SOS level would be. It would be somewhere around $8 to $10. If you can clear this level right here, you can go all the way up to 14. Because there's not too much going on here, but that is a big area of interest on the upside for synthetics. You can tell by the way the bear market started. So we have the top of the bull run. We came down straight to the 0.5 fib. In this situation, it was $5. We had a bull trap here to the top of the golden pocket, and that's why I mentioned 14. So that coming down to breaking the 618 is what started the real noticeable bear market. And recovering up to that level would be about, let's see, an 1,000% move. So amazing if this could come back up. Off of the C19 correction, how much are we at? This thing's only 100% higher than the C19 crash. You remember what I said earlier about Bitcoin, right? Holding Bitcoin and how it's so much better to hold Bitcoin in a bear market. Well, Bitcoin was 3,000, let's call Bitcoin $5,000 back at this same moment. This thing is only up 100% from that same moment. And Bitcoin, I hate to do this, but it's like it's important for the people who get triggered when I say these things. We go from 5, let's go to 6,000. We'll be kind here. You know, we're looking at 1,000% move effectively compared to the synthetics example is 100%. So if you bought the C19 crash and you just kept holding this, you'd be up 100%, watching your whole account go from an incredible price if you were able to de-risk it down to basically draining all the way back to the same levels as where you were in 2020, 4 years ago. Like altcoins, you really have to get fancy with, and when you hold alts, this is why you need to know how to trade them properly. And it's tough for most people because they don't know TA. And it's the same people that get sucked into getting a lot of these speculative assets are also told by the same people, don't learn TA, or TA doesn't work. It's really dangerous shit. Those were also the same people telling everyone to sign up to FTX during the last bull run. We saw how that went. Those are the same people telling everyone to get heavily invested in Terra Luna. We saw how that went. Those are the same people saying that Tether is going to drop to zero. Never happened, but what did happen? Terra Luna stablecoin went to zero. So yeah, man, everyone needs to be careful with this stuff and be a lot less anti-Bitcoin. When you'll start to eventually see that cycle after cycle, Bitcoin's just doing what it was designed to do. There's no reason to be against it, and there's really no reason to be in the cult of it. We're not in the cult of it over here. It's just you can't deny the results, right? If the horse keeps winning the race, keep betting on it. Anyways, this is not the nicest thing to see in the synthetics chart, the fact that we broke lower than these support lows, but it does effectively feel like a spring. And let me see, what are we? Yeah, 96% losses from the all-time high. That's usually how deep it gets. This RSI too is also pretty fucking low on the weekly. It's getting into 30. It's like the lowest we've ever seen the RSI on synthetics is right now on the weekly, lower than the C19 crash. So keep this in mind. This is like akin to the .com bubble crash. And by the way, when the .com bubble crash recovered, a lot of, like Amazon, for instance, only came back to the top of the golden pocket. I'm not saying that to discourage anyone. I'm just letting you know, like if this thing can make it back up to 14 and you're at 1,000% fucking gain, don't get greedy wanting more and more and more. Don't forget I said it. Don't get greedy. A lot of people tell me all the time, like, you sell early, Waters. Yeah, but I still made money. Don't fucking get greedy on this asset, man. A lot of people are going to make that mistake in this cycle, and it's going to be tragic for them, but I gave the warnings. You know, when we go into a positive bullish phase, yeah, you're going to see a lot of people start making a lot of mistakes. Anyways, we're now looking at Illuvium. We're wrapping up today's podcast here. We've had a retest back to the lows that have been in place since the end of the bear market. Remember, that was the end of Bitcoin's bear market when Bitcoin was trading at $15,000 over here at the same level, and now Bitcoin today is at 60,000, and this thing is at the same price. Zero progress. Again, just is what it is, man. So this Illuvium project is down 98% as we speak. It's got a little bit of a buyback. This type of candle structure is similar to what we're seeing on Ethereum. Excuse me. I would like to see this turn into a bullish hammer, potentially, if we could get back up to like 46 into this weekly close. or just a slight green doji indecision candle, but after a correction, it's a pretty solid structure for a recovery reversal. Couldn't even breach the 382, so this has a big opportunity ahead. Let me see what, oh my God, dude, fucking 4,000% to get back to all-time highs. You could put a very little in this project and feel not like you can go to sleep at night. Because even just getting back to the to the top of the golden pocket is fucking 1,800%. Yeah, getting back to this level right here of interest, which is around $670, that like right there from where we're trading at right now is an incredible gain. 1,400%, 14 fucking 100%. Could put a very little in this, guys, and you could have fun in the gambling casino, but it doesn't feel good in the meantime until we get into alt season. It's really a test of the stomach of your emotions. So take the emotions out, look at the upside potential. You notice on everything I just talked about with you guys, I never really entertained price discovery on these alts. I gave you conservative, like I wouldn't say a 1,400% gain is conservative, because in stock market terms, that would be mind blowing. But here in crypto, we're jaded. We're used to this shit. But yeah, I mean, think about this, guys. Like, I'm not out here telling you this project's going to go to $23,000. I'm saying, like, look, you have a 4,000% gain to just get back to all-time highs. It's not convincing me to buy just yet. I don't know if I need more positions. And look at the performance. This is really not good. It's very lackluster chart history we got here. So this recent move to the downside shows a lot of weakness. It shows that a lot of this is all rotating into Bitcoin as expected. This phase of the cycle, right before Bitcoin enters price discovery, usually we have a washout phase where you see Bitcoin's dominance raise quite dramatically into the first phase of price discovery, and then that rotates over into alts, and then shit like this just goes up in a straight line, as it did over here. I just carried the fractal from another chart that I had on this. It's just the other chart wasn't as clean. And you can see this thing went up, oh my God, it went up 5,700% in 24 weeks. Like, major. Actually, it might have happened even sooner. I don't have the time, but you could go back into this Illuvium chart and you could check out for yourself. This was a straight line breakout to this level of $2,000. So now it's trading at $40, right? Really, really not the best performance. So not something that I would get too excited with, but at least just consider return back to some of these levels. And then the key level right here of 157 or the 382 fib. If you can break above that, that's when I think you'll advance into the next phase of energy for this particular project. So I'm wrapping it up here. It's been an hour and a half. It's been lovely to talk about all this code with you all. Remember, we have the 16th of the month coming up very soon, 137 days left in the year, 33rd week of the year, 33rd prime, and we had connections to the end of this month too with the 30th and Joe Biden, and how we have a lot of, I mean, it's jam-packed, right? Absolutely jam-packed. The 15th is 33 days after the Trump assassination, which is 2 months and 22 days before the election. The mirror of 38, 3/8, 8, 3, 24, right? And then again, we have so much code, man. It's this 33rd week of the year that's right around the corner. We've been prepared for it. We have this flash correction that's been bought up. A lot of people are wondering what to do with this market right now. Well, you have to do what you think is best for you, because there's been a lot of buying opportunities. I myself, my bags are packed. I'm not really too interested in putting too much more in my portfolio because I have other endeavors going on the side, big ideas for 2025 that matter a lot more to me. So I'm being patient. Maybe I'll do a little bit of investing around this full moon, maybe with some of these altcoins. And then if that ends up being the case, I might do a what I'm investing in special next week. Especially if we get an event on the 16th into the weekly close, it would be perfect to do a what I'm investing in special next Sunday. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I'll do that for next week. In the meantime, I appreciate and love every single one of you guys. I'm really grateful for this community and everything we're doing, and how we've handled this past week has been amazing. Just watching how calm and chill everyone's been. You guys are legends. So I'm going to wrap this one up here. I appreciate you guys. Much love.